You might have to kill some time. Open up the stage and.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Can't do anything without
Okay.
it. Started 15 minutes ago.
Well, all of a sudden I can't get into freaking Facebook either. What kind of shit is this? What the fuck? Why does this stuff happen? I can't even log into Facebook. Yeah, but you're not in the group. You can't message the group that I'm trying to message. Okay. This is stupid. What? It doesn't matter. I can't even get into Facebook to get into the group. And it says Facebook is now telling me that they sent a message to my phone. Why is it doing this? They sent a notification to my phone. Check your Facebook notifications there and approve the login to continue. I'm trying to log in on my phone. Oops. I'm gonna go upstairs and try to log in. This is fucking silly.
It's working.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Hi,
Hi, Dr. Lisa.
how are you? Let me
I'm
get you.
great. I'm going to get in the camera. How about that?
Okay, I'm trying to get you on the camera. My what?
You need
There we
what?
are. Sorry, I was in the chat because I was texting you. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. Absolutely. I see that. And Dr. O, we had a little other glitch going on. We're going to turn our volume down because you're really loud in the room.
Oh, sorry.
No, not you. Totally on our end. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for joining us. We're
Yeah.
so glad you're here. Welcome to not base camp, practice camp. So practice camp is the beginning or the booster seat for base camp. Base Camp Pro is um, is a product that we put out every September. And what it is it's a 3-day event that offers almost all of Animal Chiropractor's 3-year annual CE. But it's really centered on growing your practice, on helping your practice become something more than just a one-person practice. And I think that most people who attend base camp are like, this is so cool. This has helped so much. And so we put together practice camp as kind of a dip your toe in, get a feel for the kinds of things that you're going to learn in base camp itself in September. That said, I don't have a clicker, Dr. O. Do you have a clicker? Because you're not shared, you haven't shared me? Oh, okay. Sorry. At any rate, apparently we haven't shared slides yet, but we're getting there. We've done this many, many times, and I swear every single time we do it, there is some little technical glitch at the beginning of the day that we have to overcome. And I think that that is kind of a testimony to understanding that life is never, practice is never smooth. Practice is never as smooth as you hope that it will be. But oftentimes, if you have a plan, if you have a goal to head toward, that definitely helps you make that practice work more like you'd like it to. And it helps you to attract the right kind of clients, and it helps you to attract the right kind of employees. And that said, tell me this. Are you the only person in your practice? Do you have employees?
I had employees. I actually moved here from California and sold my practice.
Okay.
I had a practice of, we were a 2.5 doctor practice, and each doctor had an assistant. And then I had a couple of office staff. And then moved to Texas and just didn't really, that's probably, I'm just still trying to define exactly where I kind of see myself in the next 5 years. I don't really want to be where I was.
Okay.
Even, the practice was lucrative, but it was, there was a lot of, and it was nice, there's a lot of pros and cons to having, other doctors because, for example, if you have to take sick leave or if you have a family member that, you need to tend to, there's somebody at the practice, but it also has, there's just a lot of things in the air always. And as
Yeah.
a practicing doctor, and I was the management and just always the person that everybody went to whenever there was an issue. And it adds stress, but it also detracts from your ability to really focus on your daily, getting
Sure.
started and then finishing your day and medical records, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm glad I did it. Do I want to do it again? I'm 50 years old. I don't know that I really want to build a practice. I mean, it was a practice that I built, over a long time.
Sure.
So in Texas, I am doing acupuncture, chiropractic, and just more sports medicine, imaging, trying not to do general practice, trying to defer like vaccines, dental work, that kind of thing to the practitioners in the area.
Okay.
And, I don't know, maybe in my ideal world, I would just be doing acupuncture chiropractic because, to be honest, like, when I sold my practice, I was able to keep my equipment. They bought the clientele, but they didn't need equipment. So that was really nice. I was able to keep all my stuff. And so that has allowed me to continue to do the sports, which I love. I love the imaging, but, it definitely carries more overhead. So that's kind of my
Absolutely.
story. So
Well, thanks for sharing that because
yeah,
that gives us a really good idea of where you might be headed. And I
yeah.
think that is important because I want to be able to help you get there where you're going. What are you doing, Bill? Trying to pull up slides? You'll need to go to PowerPoint. Okay. I know it's not your computer, so I know that's harder for you on this one. At any rate, but it's distracting me. I'm sorry. And so I know that, so what I heard was that you're ready to build a new practice in
Mhm.
Texas. How long have you been in the new practice?
So I moved here in the end of the spring of, so basically the summer of 21, and kind of just kept quiet for the first, I want to say like 6 months, and then started, I think it was probably January 2022, I kind of put was it 2022 or 2023? My God. I think it
Today's
was January
2024, so-
2023. It was January 2023. Basically put myself out there, saying I'm in the area, to the dressage society, you know, because I had a lot of dressage clients, and I got a number of interested parties based on just one social media post.
Oh, good.
And yeah, and so that basically all the clients I have are from that post, word of mouth. And then in my little HOA, I take care of like my neighbors' horses. Like I'll do full service here, but I really haven't extended that outside of my neighbors.
All right.
So that's kind of what I've been doing.
Okay. So
So
that,
I've kept it small. So,
okay. And
but like I
when
said,
you-
I think that I'm at the point now where I would like to do more. You know, I'm probably busy 1, maybe 2 days a week. I'd like to do 3, like a steady 3 days a week.
okay. All right.
So
I don't have a clicker for that. This won't click.
Sorry.
I hope we're working.
I
I
can
hope
see
we're
a
still-
slide. Yeah.
Oh, good. You can see the slide. Awesome.
Yeah. Mhm.
That's kind of where we're headed. All right. So good to know. That's all good information. So we want to start off with what Practice Camp is really about. And Practice Camp is about building more confidence in yourself and in your practice and in what you're doing. And building that community of professionals around you that you will be able to share with, and helping you get an income, the income that you're really looking for.
Mhm.
Yep, I'll have to mess with that. And as a result of that, we're going to go to the next slide, please. You said you're doing animal chiropractic. Tell me a little bit about your animal chiropractic. Where did you train? And what does animal chiropractic, how does that look in your practice?
So I trained at Options,
Okay.
and I think I got certified in 2010.
Okay.
Yeah, 2010. And I was certified in acupuncture in 2007. I'm a 2001 graduate from vet school. And so I just remember a couple of different teaching assistants saying, and that were veterinarians, that, you know, now that you have your acupuncture, you're really going to want to do your chiropractic because they're very synergistic. And I couldn't agree more.
Sure.
I've really enjoyed doing both modalities and really don't like being limited just to one. When I finished my chiropractic training in 2010, I had left for the summer. They did the summer course. And it was, I was in Napa at the time, and things were really starting to slow down because of the recession. And we had just hired more vets, and I was on production only. And I'm like, you know what? And I was paying for all this on my own. And so when I got back, I ended up just going out on my own, which was really scary. And ended up buying basically an x-ray machine, like signing the dotted line before I even got home, and just kind of hit the ground running. But chiropractic was a great way for me to build my practice, because what I found was a lot of people would call, you know, the great thing about chiropractic is you don't wait for something to break, right? It becomes part of your maintenance, preventative wellness
Sure.
program. And it really helps to foster, you know, that trust and that ongoing patient-client veterinary relationship. So it was always really good for me.
That's good to hear. That's all good
Yeah.
to hear.
Yeah. And
So-
so in my, so today, like the work that I was brought on to do, I always incorporate a chiropractic acupuncture diagnostic exam into my sports medicine exam. And to be honest, I think that the first call that I got from that was just somebody looking for somebody that was looking outside of the box, that maybe could approach a lameness maybe a little differently, and they didn't have to haul out anywhere.
Mhm.
And so that was my first client. And, I think the one thing that I find difficult when I am called out in a case like that is, do they want me here for chiropractic? Do they want me here for acupuncture? They may already have a chiropractor, right? And so I always try and respect those other relationships. And so I think that is a tough part about doing what I do.
Sure.
Because I want to work with the different groups. Like one of the ladies I work with, she does the Masterson method body work, and she's a really good client, and she's given me quite a few referrals. But like she uses an osteopath. I'm pretty sure she has a chiropractor. So, and just being an equine, there are so many different people that touch that horse, right? So
Sure.
I think that's the hard part, being a veterinarian and being having chiropractic training certification, is trying to define, okay, what do you want from me?
Yeah.
And
Which
I don't
hat?
want to,
Which hat are you
I
wearing
don't want
today?
to overstep, and I also want to charge appropriately, because I don't want to not like, so when I do my sports medicine, I won't do an adjustment, right? I'm motioning, and my sports medicine exam. And then, there's times where people will say, well, what do you think? And I'm like, well, I think the horse needs this, this, and this. And one of the things may be, regular chiropractic acupuncture. And so then I get, asked back, or maybe they have me and somebody else. So it really it almost seems like it depends on whatever that first appointment is, kind of sets the tone for that relationship. Maybe I
Awesome.
need paperwork that defines it better. Like, what are you looking for? Are you looking for chiropractic? Are you looking for, sports medicine services? I don't know, but
Well, let's
that's
do
one of
that
the things that
today.
I've found that's hard being the veterinarian, is that,
Yeah.
I just don't know. Like, and I've seen that kind of come up on some of the veterinary posts on Vet to Vet, is like, when you do have that training, how do you insert yourself, and how do you know what they want from you,
That's a
without
great question.
overstepping.
And I think today what we're going to do is help you define
Mhm.
how you know, or define the boundaries of your practice a little bit.
Yeah.
Would that be helpful?
Yeah, it would. Mhm.
All right. So 70% of the households in the US own a pet.
Mhm.
82.8% of those of dog owning households and 54% of cat owning households make at least one visit to the veterinarian annually. And you know
Mhm.
that because you've been in that side of it. And you've
Right.
already expressed that you understand where we're going with that, because if they're willing to go at least once a year to the vet and spend $109.26 billion
Mhm.
on their pets, then our horses, there's 1.6 million households own a horse. That's 7,246,835 horses in the US since 2019. And $122 billion is spent on horses in the US annually. And that is veterinary medicine. That's not including all the ancillary things, tack and
Mhm.
feed and all those other things. All right. So the point is that in studies done by Forbes in 2021, they found that people are happier when they spend money on others, spouses, children, people they love, than if they spend it on themselves. Think about that. People are happier when they have the opportunity to spend money on someone else. We're always happy to give others time, gifts, things, because that's our nature and it builds a connection. And I heard you talk about relationships that you're trying to maintain and forge. And that's a part of that connection. And the other part of that connection is accepting what people are willing to give you. So being the giver all the time doesn't necessarily maintain that relationship. We have to also learn to be the receiver of some of those gifts. And so, especially as veterinarians, but as animal chiropractors, we have to realize that when we are giving our services or doing our services, we have to be receptive of the rewards that come with that. And literally, people don't have, there's not a whole lot of other things they can give you in return, except for the fees that you charge. So let's think about some of the, we talked a little bit about the negative aspects of your practice. You know, what would you like to change in it right now? And what I heard was you'd like more clarity. You'd like more certainty that you are there for the right reason, that you've allotted the right amount of time for that patient, and that your focus is going to be in the right place. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
Okay. So chiropractic itself, in human chiropractic, is estimated to have been about $18.6 billion in treatments, not as much as we did for horses, right? Humans take better care of their animals than they do themselves. And that's not a surprise to most of us, right? We're going to talk about this in a second. But before we get to this slide, I want to talk a little bit about what message are you putting out to your clients? What is the menu that you're showing them? So quite often have you ever been to a restaurant when you're really hungry and you look at the menu and you can't make a decision? You're so hungry, you would just eat whatever they put in front of you. Have you ever been in that position? I know as veterinarians, we don't get lunch, we don't get dinner, sometimes we don't go to the bathroom all day.
Right.
And so we're just happy with just whatever you give me, I'm fine. All right. Imagine that many of your clients are in that same position. They have an animal that they love, that they are trying to resolve a problem with. I want to take this horse to the show next week. I want this horse to be ready to be bred. I want this horse to be able to be sold. Those are all problems that they have. But they get a menu that says, I can do all these things, but they don't know which thing on that menu will lead them to the solution that they're trying to achieve. And so sometimes when we give our clients too many choices, they don't know what to pick. And as you said, there are so many different people that they call in because each one of those people is their last hope, right? I've been to the famous last words, I've tried everything. How many times do you hear that?
Yeah.
I've tried everything. And what we often forget is that in chiropractic, the animal has a job in that healing process. You know, that animal can do its part as well. And if we don't give the animal the opportunity by removing the interference that's in the way of it trying to heal or trying to resolve its issues, it can't get there. And so all of those problems, I can't get to the sale, I can't get to the show, I can't get bred, come because there's interference in the middle. somewhere. And so sometimes if we offer too many problems, too many solutions to too many problems, we can confuse our clients. And so one of the things that we want to do today is clarify how you really want to solve your clients' problems. But we have to start with what that problem is. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Before we get there, we're going to talk a little bit about how do you make this $1 million practice? And this can actually be done with one doctor. It doesn't take an army of doctors. It might take one doctor and an assistant, but this can be achieved with one person. And you'll notice here on the slide, this is set up for dogs, but that's because you can do 9,984 dogs in a year easily. A chiropractic adjustment on a dog should take about 3 to 5 minutes, which means it's about 25 hours a week if you are taking 12 weeks off a year. So 25 hours a week, divide that by how many days you want to work in the week. We're probably looking at 4 days a week, maybe. All right. And then what you do with the rest of your time is completely, random. You can choose what you want to do. Does it have to be work? And what's the best use of your time outside of those work hours? I know you said you want to grow your practice from where it is now. And so what does growth mean? Does that mean you want to work more days? Does it mean you want to work more hours? How do you want to set that up? So I want you to think about that. We're going to get to that in a minute. For $1 million horse practice at $225 a horse, which is pretty reasonable in most areas, that's a really funny number. It's 4,444 horses in a year. That if you take 12 weeks off out of the year and work 22, 23 hours a week, you can achieve that $1 million practice. Because we anticipate about 10 minutes a horse. So that said, I'm going to tell you a little story. So I had a completely mostly mobile solo equine veterinary practice in South Carolina. And in South Carolina, there's a fair number of horses, and they do a variety of things. Hunter jumpers, fox hunting, race horses, different types of race horses. There's no parimutuel betting in South Carolina, but a lot of the thoroughbred race community send their babies to South Carolina for training in the winter because it's a really ideal temperature. So these are the kind of horses I was seeing, plus some dogs. And I didn't really do dogs until the end of my practice there. And what would happen is I could fill up a month with work. But what I wasn't taking into account was this thing called the Pareto principle. I don't know if you're familiar with that. So the Pareto principle says that whatever time you allot for work, you will fill it up with work. It's that 80-20 thing where 80% of what you're doing is just filling time. 20% is what you're doing is actually the work that you're there to do. And so I could fill up a month with work. So a lot of it was driving from house to house. A lot of it was downtime, doing book work. So that 80-20 principle, in about 80% of it, I was doing nothing. And in 20% of it, I was making all my income. Fast forward to 2010, I started traveling back and forth between Texas and South Carolina. I did that because I had partnered up with Dr. O, and I was teaching animal chiropractic as well as working with him in his clinic. And then for portions of the month, he would come work with me in my clinic. And I found that even though I was missing a week each month, my income did not go down. And the year after that, we went to 2 weeks in Texas, 2 weeks in South Carolina, back and forth, and my income did not go down. In 2016, when we opened the school here in Meridian, Texas, my travel between the two places decreased substantially. I got down to where I would go back to South Carolina for 4 days a month, sometimes 4 days every 6 weeks. And my income in South Carolina did not go down, but it got more efficient. People knew that I was going to be there. They knew where to meet me. And so I would be able to see pretty much all of my clients in 5 days that I was seeing before in a month. And that's the Pareto principle at hand. It says that we will fill up, if we allot more time for work, then we will fill it up with work. But if we separate it out so that we have specific boundaries around those work hours, then work will become more efficient.
Mhm.
And we have to literally fill up the other time slots with other things that we think are important. So quite often, it's really important that you set a meeting for yourself every day at noon or 12:30, and that meeting is an hour long. What's that meeting for? What is that meeting for in the middle of the day? What do most
Are you
people do
asking me?
in that time of the day?
Lunch? I don't know.
Lunch.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's really important that you set boundaries for yourself, and with your clients. Because when you start to define those boundaries, your clients will begin to recognize that, number one, that you have boundaries, and number two, that your time is valuable. And that's one of the things that helps us to be able to do things like begin to charge more for our services, because our time becomes more valuable in our eyes, but also in the eyes of those people who depend on us. So there are 6 steps to building $1 million practice. And the first step is that we have to start with the end in mind. And we have to learn to stay in our lane, which means set boundaries. And then we need to be able to define the ideal client, the client that we really want to serve. And then we have to go look for where those ideal clients hang out. And then there's a little part in the middle that's messy, that might seem like herding cats, until we get to decide that we are going to be in charge. And that's when we set financial boundaries. And those financial boundaries really have more to do with how we manage our funds than how other people take them over. So when we start with the end, it definitely makes it easier to know where you're going. If you were going to travel from here to California, what destination would you be going to? Do you know that already?
For work or?
Well, or to visit.
Probably Northern California.
So maybe you would go back and visit the clinic that you were in before.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how to get there?
Yes.
Did you say yes?
Yes.
He turned the sound down. I can't hear now, just so you know,
Okay. Sorry.
Dr. O.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so you know how to get there. If we were to set you in a car, you could eventually end up in that right place. And a part of that is because you know the destination. So then the next step then in your practice is to decide where you want it to take you. And this is what helps you to begin setting up some of those boundaries. So you can create a life that you want. There is a man named Viktor Frankl, and he wrote a book that is called Man's Search for Meaning. And Man's Search for Meaning is really the story of his life. Viktor Frankl was a prisoner of the concentration camps in Auschwitz. Not just one, but 7 different concentration camps. He was taken there during the war. He lost his wife, he lost his children, he lost his parents because they were killed in these camps. And yet he survived. And he was a doctor, and he recognized that so long as he had a vision of where he was headed and a purpose, that he would survive. And he watched many of his friends that he met in the camp perish because they gave up hope. At the same time, Freud was also a psychologist in Germany, and Freud's thing was that man was searching for happiness, that we all were out looking for joy and pleasure. And Frankl disagreed with him. He said, it's not joy or pleasure that we're seeking, because there are many people who have everything in the world and they're not happy. What we're seeking is meaning. We are looking for meaning in our lives. And so the first thing that helps us to have a destination in life is a project that you can work on or a problem that you solve. And the next part of that triage is a redemptive perspective on your suffering. What do we mean by that? Well, clearly, Viktor Frankl underwent a lot of suffering. And rather than begrudge his captors, he understood that it trained him, but it also gave him strength. And he recognized that even though there were camp guards who were told to do certain things, they were still human and they still had weaknesses. They also lacked purpose in life. So a redemptive perspective on your suffering. Well, how did it help you? When he was finally released from the camps, he went on to head, I can't name it, but a university medical school. And he really threw his work into helping teenage suicide patients. And that's how he lived out the rest of his life. And the third thing is a community of people who loves you. And that community of people may be your clients, but let's face it, those clients will never be on that same level that you are. Those clients, while they may be smart and they know their animals and they understand from an emotional level, they have a different level of emotion about what they do than what you do. And so having a community of people who love you is important in terms of a community of others who are perhaps working on that same project or helping you make your way to that same project. So one of the things that we do in order to achieve that end point or that destination is to write our obituary. So we're going to take a moment. We're going to have a little break here in a second. If you've downloaded it, there is a workbook on the dashboard. And if you haven't had a chance to, that's okay too. But there are 3 things we want to make sure that we keep in mind in this obituary. Number 1 is a destination. Where are we headed? And number 2 is what problem are we set out to solve? And what kind of suffering do you think we'll go through? And who's the community of people who love you that will be left with what you have done in your lifetime? So those 3 things are going to help you to guide you to write this obituary. And I know that seems Oh, kind of morbid, right? Kind of sad, but it's not really. There's a couple of things to think about. Number one, you get to choose what it's going to say. The sad part is you won't be there when somebody reads it, but you get to choose what it's going to say so that you can make it easy for them to write that same obituary when you're gone. So we're going to take a minute. We want to write that story in that ensures that your life had that meaningful direction. We'll come back to that. Okay. So let's take a few minutes. Number one, I want you to think about how old do you think you want to be when you die? I picked 120. I don't, some people are not quite as optimistic about that. But put that number down. One of the reasons we want to put that number down is we're going to do some math, right? That number minus your age gives you how many years you have left to achieve that really exciting goal at the end. Every story that you've ever been in has a hero, and that hero always undergoes some turmoil at the beginning of the story. And then there's always some urgency to get to the end of the story. I got to save the damsel before she marries the evil prince because there's a time limit and it's going to happen tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., right? I think that's Shrek. And so there's an urgency to that story. And one of the reasons we want to build a little bit of urgency into this story, your story, is to make it interesting to you and to others, but to you in particular, because you want it to be the story that inspires you every time you get up in the morning, that you can read it and say, I've got work to do today because this is where I want to be a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And building a little urgency into that story is a good idea. So we're gonna start that story with what's the climactic scene? What's the big thing that happens at the end? And we're gonna work our way back from that. I'm gonna give you 10 minutes. I know that's not very long to think about your whole life, but 10 minutes, I want you to think about what do you want people to say about you in the end? You've already told me a lot of what you've done in life. You've done some pretty amazing things. But if you read, I guess this is another way to think about it. I've looked at a lot of people's websites. When we have students come into class, I always scope them out. I've seen a lot of really terrible websites and terrible biographies on their websites. I went to grade school until I was 12 years old, and then I graduated summa cum laude in my whatever. It gives that whole litany of all of their education, but it doesn't really tell what they did, you know? So in this obituary, this gives you the opportunity to tell what you really did in life. What are the things you accomplished? Who are the monsters that you defeated? All of those kinds of things. Any questions?
No.
All right. Let's take about a 10-minute break. We're going to put a 10-minute timer on and we'll be back in just a little bit.
Okay.
Tell me when you're ready. Oops.
Well, I have something, so I'm
Okay.
ready.
Well, something is good. It's a good start.
Yeah.
All right. The next thing we're going to do is think about, we're going to backtrack a little bit. So
Mhm.
you've got a place you want to go in that. How many years?
34.
34. Okay. So you've got someplace you want to be in 34 years.
Mhm.
So in order to get there, this kind of almost makes it easy because we can even split it in half about where do you have to be in 10 years to get to there in 34 years?
I'd like to be working, consistently, or like I said, part-time.
At a part-time basis. Is there any place where you want to be working differently than what you're doing now?
I just want sustainable work because I'm 50. So if I
Okay.
want to work for 15 years,
Yeah, you
kind of
definitely want
know
to do
how
some
that
things that
goes.
aren't taking its toll on yourself, on your body,
Right,
all of
right.
those kinds of things for sure. And um, so let's look at that. Where do you want to be in 15 years with your income, with your hours of work? Do you want to work fewer hours and get paid more? Do you want to work more hours and get paid less?
No.
Like, the Walmart greeter, hi, I'm here.
Yeah.
So let's think about that. And why don't you write that down at this moment so that you've got that as a marker. I need you to share your screen over there. All right. So if you're up to it, can you share with us just a little bit of what you wrote? Like,
Yeah, I can read it to you. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, obviously
we know
it's
it's a work
just,
in progress.
yeah. Okay. So I wrote, Lisa was a wife, daughter, sister, aunt, friend, and veterinarian. She was preceded by her husband, Jim. Lisa has always said her life was full because of the animals she cared for at home and in practice. While she didn't have any children, she did have her animals.
It's okay. This can be emotional.
It's kind of
I
crazy.
understand.
And claimed that She was never bored at the ranch, especially with her horses to care for. She practiced veterinary medicine until she could no longer physically do her job. When the physical demands of practice exceeded her abilities, she mentored local children through 4-H. Working with the children and the animals was a true passion for her. In practice, she always said that one of her greatest memories was watching the partnership between her patients and their owners and her role in their success, whether that was keeping their retired friend in the pasture healthy or in the show ring. Honoring the importance of horses in their lives, Jim and Lisa have donated their estate to several charities where horses are integral to the healing, such as PTSD and autism.
That's awesome. That's amazing. So do you have a special connection to children with autism?
Oh yeah, I have a nephew, well, 2 nephews. My sister, who didn't get pregnant until she turned 40, she has twins and they're both on the spectrum.
Mm.
So they're 5 years old right now. They didn't talk really until they were like 4.5, and one started talking and the other one.
Uh-oh, I lost sound. Some reason I lost sound, Dr. O. Yeah,
But
here we are.
I think during my career, I've just been really touched by the way horses influence people, whether it's a lesson horse, whether it's, like the horses used for therapy for people that are paralyzed, or the PTSD, and then the autism. I've been able to see some success with some of those programs too. So
That's huge
yeah,
because, you know, with at the rate that we're going, there will be so many more children on the spectrum in the next
yeah,
few years than there
yeah.
are even in normal life.
Well, and I think too, like, when you look at so many of the interesting quotes through life, like, how horses are, and there's just something about a horse that they're just so, there's something about them, just being with them. You don't have to be riding them. So I do think that they have a real power that can be used, for people that, have physical issues, mental, disabilities, whatever.
Mhm.
So,
I think that's a great thing to think about. I think horses are very observant and they
mhm.
see things, they pay attention to things that we don't notice.
Yeah.
And then they respond to those things. So I agree with you on that one. That's an amazing thing to be working toward. And I'm sure you'll look back at it and refine it and do some more work with it. And if you attend base camp with us in September, you will not only get most of your CE hours for animal chiropractic, you'll also get some veterinary CE hours, and you'll have a group to work with it on. So you'll have some more people that will be able to help you refine it and think about it more in terms of where you want it to go. If you're ready,
Yeah.
we're going to move on to talking about mission statements. And the reason we need to move on to talk about mission statements is this is where we move from that part of you that kind of goes together. It's you and your business moving to that end goal, to specifically what message do you want to be out there to your clients? What message do you want people to think about you with? So it's always great, I think, to be able to say, I never spent a dime on advertising. It was all word of mouth. And there are some businesses where that works really well. I hear a lot of chiropractors say that. Well, it's pretty obvious when I walk into a chiropractor's clinic what I'm there for. I mean, they do one thing.
Right.
But let's think about your practice. Right now, your practice, you've named several different services that you have, that you offer. And I want you to think about how those services, how do they each reward you in terms of income, but also in terms of time spent. So when we spend time with an animal, time doesn't always equal more result. Sometimes it's just waiting. And when we think about this is always kind of our a fun little conversation. So when you go to a client and you do your work and you're all done, and almost before you've even picked up your stuff, what do they say? They say, well, how much do I owe you? Because now they're in a hurry. They don't have any time. They want to write you that check. And as they write you the check, about the minute that they have written out the check, they look up from it and they say, hey, I have one more question. And that question oftentimes leads to 15, 20 minutes, half an hour more of conversation or more questions, right? It's never just one more question. And so oftentimes the time we spend with clients and with animals doesn't necessarily equate the amount of income we have or the amount of other animals we'll be able to see, because it's not unusual to have some clients who take way more of our time than we've allotted. And then there are others, then there are others, somebody's messing with my internet. Then there are others who take less, right? So in writing this mission statement, this is the statement that helps us to be more specific. And it helps us to also communicate to, have you ever played, you know how you play telephone? And that's what I think word of mouth advertising is like for veterinarians. You know, one client that you've treated or that you've seen has an impression of what you did, and then they tell a friend, hey, they did this. And then pretty soon somebody's calling you to spay their pig. And that's not unusual, right? That mission statement is your statement to the community. This is what I do. This is the problem that I solve. This is how I solve it. And this is what happens if you don't use me as your animal chiropractor or your veterinarian. All right. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to look at this mission statement as having, and I'm not sure, my frame is showing me a bunch of different things. Do you see the slide, or do you see the slide plus a bunch of other stuff?
I can barely see the slide because I have you on my phone, but
Yeah, let me see if
I
I can.
mostly just see the
Let me
slide,
see if
but
I
I
can
can see
switch that.
the
I'm going to
side of
switch
it.
that to a better slide choice. That's better. I hope that helps. So what we're going to do is we're going to write a mission statement for your practice that aligns with your end in mind. And let's think about this. When you think about what you do, what you want to do in your practice, what is the one problem that you solve? And we're going to spend a little time on this because we've got time. What's the one problem that you solve? So think about the clients you work with. Think about what you do for them. And let's see if we can come up with 2 or 3 things that you do for them and distill that down to the one problem that you solve. Okay. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to think about that and write that down. And then we'll share it and talk about it and see if we can't distill it down to the one thing. You good with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. What are your 3 things that you solve?
I just said performance issue, lameness, or behavioral issues.
Okay. Let's think about that from a slightly different perspective. What problem does the client have, not just what the horse has? What's the problem that the client is having because of those things?
Well, anxiety. I don't know.
Okay.
And you know, um, they're not able to, they can't ride the horse,
Okay.
or they're
Does that,
unable to.
go ahead. Tell me more.
Well, it seems like most of the times when I'm called out, it's because somebody is frustrated with the way their horse is performing. They're either unable to ride the horse safely, or are worried that the horse is hurting, or want to rule out that there isn't a pain component, that it's just a behavioral issue.
Okay. All right. So their mindset at the time, I heard you say frustrated.
Yeah.
Are they frustrated because they don't have an answer?
Yes.
All right. Would they be happier if they had an answer, even if it was, some horrible thing like, a 70-pound enterolith or something?
I think so. Yeah. Seems like clients are always happy to have an answer,
Yeah.
regardless of what it is. They almost want something. Like, it seems to me like, you know, in the past, like through the years, anybody can come up and tell somebody that something's wrong with their horse, and the person that has the most crazy negative thing wins the prize for being the expert.
Yeah, exactly. The
So,
most clearly defined,
yeah.
because to be crazy and big, you have to be clearly defined, right? And it has to make some kind of sense. So it sounds to me like the problem that you solve for people is that you give them a solution to their frustration. So the conflict or the problem is you help them, what sort of clarify their um, the cause of their frustration. Okay. And then where are those people after you've seen their horse? Because that's the destination we want to take them to.
After I've seen their horse.
Mm-hmm. What's the solution? How do they feel after you've provided a solution? How do they?
They usually feel like they have a better understanding of what is going on, like they've been looking, um, and or a relief that, they're able to, and relieved,
Okay. Relief is a good thing, right? I mean, it's a level of certainty or confidence that they've achieved, whereas before they were fairly uncertain. Okay. So we've introduced a conflict, frustration, uncertainty, and we've defined a destination, more confidence, more understanding. So our missions, your mission statement, why don't you work on that at first, that first part? Try to put together those two parts. Start with, what's the name of your practice?
No, it's has nothing to do with that. It's just Lasante Equine.
Okay, so what you would say is at Lasante Equine,
At
we
Lasante
help,
Equine.
huh?
At Lasante Equine, we use an integrative systematic exam to,
Oh, wait, back up.
yeah.
Who do you help? Talk to me about the
Okay.
conflict of that client first.
Um,
You help frustrated horse owners? To become confident or to have a clear solution? And one of the important things about this mission statement is that we always want the client to be the hero in our statement. And that's why we call them out at the beginning. And once you've told them where they're going to head, where they're going to be, that destination, now you can tell them what you use to get them there.
okay.
So put that together and then read it out loud.
Okay. Um,
Tell me what you have.
I don't have anything. I'm really bad at this.
You're not bad at it. You just haven't done it very much. One of the things I see, in particular on veterinary websites, is that a lot of the wording is about the clinic. It's about what the doctors are doing, or all the,
Mhm.
you know, all their acumen and all their accolades. But not very much about how well their clients did by choosing them. So think about that. When someone tells you, You did a great job. I'm so glad you made that choice. Where do you feel that? Like where in your body do you feel it?
Mm. I think just overall you feel more confident. I don't know.
Okay, good. So if we can instill that in our clients, even before they're our clients,
Mhm.
how is that going to affect the relationship you have with them?
Yeah.
So let's try to write that again. So you want to name your clinic because that's what you do at, say it
We at
again.
Lasante Equine want to empower our clients by giving them the confidence that their horse, um,
That's better. But go back to that conflict they were having.
mhm.
More people remember the errors or they remember the struggles they've been in, because they're emotional, right? We make
Right.
choices because of emotion. And you will connect with them better if you can meet them in that emotion before we take them to be competent. And it might feel funny to call out people who are frustrated and, upset, sad, at their wits' end, on their last dollar. We don't want to call those people out.
Uh,
But if they're frustrated, they can definitely resonate with that. They've all been there at some point. And you already
I
named,
don't know. We at Lasante Equine work to strengthen the relationship of our clients with their horses by working to minimize the frustration that underline many of our horses' problems and give them the confidence and understanding to move forward. I don't know.
okay, we can work on that.
Yeah.
What's the destination you're taking the client to? You're giving the client confidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And we don't want to name the horses being frustrating because they like their horse. So we definitely want to we can let the client know that we know they're frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
We know you're frustrated with their horse and you've spent a lot of money trying to
Mm-hmm.
solve its problems. At Asante Equine, we help clients like you become confident and certain that their animal will feel better and can continue to do its job. That's not a very good one, but that's kind of a definite way to go. And the next part I think is going to help you out. What happens if they don't come to you for help? We have to foreshadow the stakes. So one of the ways to say that is Clients who use Asante equine on a regular basis enjoy more horse shows, more foals in the pasture, and a longer time with their cherished companions. So that's kind of a backwards way of saying, if you don't come to me, you're going to have fewer horse shows, you're going to spend more money, and you're not going to have as much outcome. And one of the important things about this mission statement is we want it to be really clear. So we don't want to try to hide behind, cloudy words that don't give our people a picture of where they're going to be.
Mhm.
So you might even call out those horse owners who are frustrated because they've missed too many shows, they've lost money on investments. I mean, you can even go that route. You can be that clear and very specific because you want them to have a specific feeling, not just a general, maybe I felt that way once, right? So if you can be the client or the clinic that takes horse owners from being frustrated and confused and upset and losing money to being clear in their endeavors and confident in what they're doing, how does that make you feel?
Good.
Are those the kind of clients you want to come to you? You'd rather have the second kind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is how we create better clients. We put a mission statement out there that lets them know. We don't even have to say our clients are regular clients, because it's pretty clear that if they come to you on a regular basis, they will have more clarity. They will enjoy that feeling more. They'll spend less money in the long run. And that'll make you want to get out of bed more often. I assume you're not doing emergencies.
Not really, no. I mean, I have seen some for regular clients if they were unable to get a hold of their regular veterinarian.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't say that I won't go, especially if we have a regular relationship.
Sure.
Yeah, they know they can call me. So
And does it make you feel good or excited that you're going to be able to go see those people because you know that you'll be able to charge appropriately?
yeah. Mm-hmm. It was,
Oops, we double clicked.
being in practice,
Go back.
previously doing a general practice. I think, it was always hard to see people that came in and didn't do any of that. So, that's one reason, like when I came here, I just really didn't want to do the regular care because I didn't want to, step on those toes, but also I was completely new to the area. I didn't even know where I was going.
Right. And you're not stepping on toes. You're avoiding that pitfall, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
let's think about a little more about your mission statement, because you're in a great position to
Mhm.
really create this practice from the ground up and make it be crystal clear what it is you want it to be. It doesn't have a history. There's not a rumor mill following you, which we know happens. It's just clear and new. So in this mission statement, we're going to introduce a conflict that intrigues the audience. And how do we intrigue the audience? we call them out by name. Hey, you in the blue shirt, you know, because people love it when you are talking directly to them. And that's why we really want to, at the beginning of that mission statement, highlight who the audience is. How are they feeling? And it summons energy and resources. And when we say energy and resources, what we really want to make sure of is that we raise the energy, we raise the excitement that here finally is someone who will be able to solve my problem. And by resources, what we mean are they're willing, they gain a willingness to spend the money to get you to come and see their animal. When we talk about defining a destination, we want it to be clear and visual and very specific. So sometimes it's almost easier to think about this mission statement as a before and after picture. So can you envision that client before, in the before picture where they, I can imagine this woman sitting on her tack trunk in the barn and her riding helmet's next to her and her horse is standing in the stall with his head hanging low and they all look like they're dejected. We just can't go work today. And the after picture, what do you envision that being?
To make the horse feel better and give the client the information either to continue to help that horse feel better.
So what I envision that
answer.
after picture being is they're out in the ring, they're doing their dressage routine, they're moving flawlessly from marker to marker.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can give that kind of a picture in our mission statement so that they can have that vision and that feeling of that success, then you won't need to sell them on your services. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And they won't have to make a choice. What do I need? Do I need chiropractic? Do I need acupuncture? Do I need x-rays? Do I need, some other kind of therapy? They won't have to make that choice because the only choice they need to make is that they want to go from being the frustrated horse owner to being the one who is out there doing it. Do you see the difference?
Mm-hmm.
And it helps them to not be as confused. Oh, I don't know how many things my horse needs.
Mm-hmm.
So that mission statement is compelling and interesting and shows it also will help you to understand what you're going to do every day. I know when we started, you said that one of your problems is when you have a client not knowing what they want from you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that having a clear mission statement like this will help you to have more clarity on what they want from you. Because here, what do they want when they call you out to see an animal? What do they want? They want you to take them from that frustration to being clear and confident that they know what they're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does it matter what you do in the middle?
Mm-mm.
Right. And I heard you talk about you're afraid to step on other people's toes, but other people have the opportunity to take those clients through that same journey, and they're
Mm-hmm.
not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they called you, not somebody else. Okay. So this mission statement has a problem that you're solving, has empathy, has authority, tells them what the risks are, and the next steps to the solution. And when we talk about empathy, in part of that mission statement, you might have a second or third sentence that talks about how you understand where they are. And what in your life path lets you be able to show them that you know where they are and what they're going through.
Mhm.
Have you owned horses?
Yeah.
Okay. So they would know that if you've owned horses for the last 20 years, you've been on that path before.
Mhm.
And that's why you do what you do.
Mhm.
So if there's a sentence in there that says, Dr. Lisa understands the frustration that horse owners go through because she's owned horses for 20 years. And that's a part of why she's gone above and beyond what other veterinarians do and taken additional training in acupuncture and chiropractic so that she could understand the animal from the inside out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was really good.
Do you see how that gives you authority and empathy at the same time?
Mhm.
Right. And it sets you apart from other doctors.
Mhm.
Okay. We already talked about what the risks, the stakes that are at risk. If they're not using you, they get to sit home more often
Mhm.
instead of going to the show, breeding their mare, doing whatever.
Mhm.
And so then the next thing we want to include in this mission statement is, what do they need to do? What's the first next step they need to do to solve their problem? Do they call you? Do they go to your website? Do they click a button? Do they make a payment? What is that next step? How do you set up appointments with your clients?
Generally they call or text or email.
Okay. And then you find a time and set it up for them and
Mhm.
okay. All right. So that's their next step. I would give them one of those to do. I wouldn't give them three
Mhm.
because number one, it makes it more clear to them. They don't have to make a choice. Oh,
Mhm.
is she going to see my text? What if she doesn't check her email? Maybe I'll do all three. Does that ever happen?
Yeah.
So give them one. Say, just text me at this number with your name and phone number and, you know, brief description, which will be 6 pages long.
Yeah.
And that's a way to also be more clear to them and to begin to set boundaries, you know, and your text will be answered in the next 48 hours. I think that also communicates, don't text me that your horse is bleeding out and I need to be there right away. Right. And so when we start to set those boundaries through the service that we're doing for our patients, and a mission statement is a service to them, it helps them to know more clearly what we do, how we're going to do it, why we are the person to choose, and what happens if they don't choose us. Then we start to also pick clients that we like. What time is it? Ah, okay. All right. This next slide is a chart that you can download from the dashboard. I think it's called the Big Y. And with this chart, we're going to go through part of it. We're not going to get through all the way through it. But what I want you to write at the very top of this chart is, why are you doing what you're doing? What compels you to want to, you know, go through all this training, spend all this money on education, all these things? What compels you to do that? Why are you here? What's that big why?
Why am I here?
Yeah. Why do you want to, why did you become a veterinarian? Why did you study acupuncture? Why did you study chiropractic? Why do you want to have this
Um,
clinic?
well, I decided to become a veterinarian because I knew I always wanted to have horses in my life. And I loved medicine. And I wanted to become certified in acupuncture so that I could better identify or help identify, some of the problems that the horses have that um, can be missed or not, or when we don't have a good way to treat them, then we have this other approach which can be helpful, and then chiropractic, obviously, for the same reason.
Okay.
And
So,
along the way, really found that I really enjoy the connection that I have with the clients and helping them to do what they love, what I loved.
okay. So if we distill that down, what I'm hearing you say is your real why is that you love horses and you want to help other people love their horses too. And you may want to add some things to that, but I would say that's probably the meat of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a pretty noble thing to do. And I think that it kind of transcends all those other little things that we add in there. So then in this X, in that upper left-hand corner, I want you to write down, what are your non-negotiables? What will you never do? What would you not do if it doesn't matter how much somebody would pay you, this is not part of your job. This is not part of your practice.
Harm the horse.
Okay.
Um, I don't like being pushed to do things that are not in the best interest of the horse.
Okay.
Um,
Would you do my laundry?
yeah.
All right. Would you hold that check until I get back from vacation?
I have. I don't like doing it, but I have done
Then
it.
then don't do it. That's a non-negotiable,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's a non-negotiable. All right. This is the place where you get to define what you want, not what has been, but what you really want in your practice.
Mm-hmm.
So let's put in all of those things. Will you neuter my cat on the kitchen table?
No.
Okay. All right. Those are the kinds of things I want you to fill that space with.
Okay.
You can probably think of 100 more, right?
Okay.
Put them in there. Because this is really where you get to start to distill down what the boundaries are for your practice,
Mm-hmm.
what your big why is. And I think part of what I heard was as you were starting the non-negotiables is that you want to be the advocate for the horse
Mm-hmm.
with people who own them. So in that next gap, or next, not gap, but next square on the left side on the bottom, I want you to write down things that you're really good at that you don't ever want to do again. So what are some things that, I'm really good at this, but I don't want to have to be the one that does it anymore.
Dentistry,
Okay.
it hurts my neck. Castration,
Write those in.
um, repro,
Okay.
um, emergencies after midnight in the pouring rain when it's freezing cold.
Okay. How about just emergencies, period?
Yeah.
I don't think you can ever charge enough for an emergency, but I do think that the more animals that you adjust on a routine basis, the fewer emergencies you'll have
Mhm,
because you are preventing those emergencies.
mhm.
I should stop
Except
throwing
when,
my
except
own.
when they run into like a wired fence or,
Why did they do that? What made that animal make that decision?
yeah, rub
That's
their eye on a piece of wire. I mean, they just find it. I don't know. Um, yeah, usually anxiety, but sometimes just bad luck. They're the troublemaker.
all right. So the next part we're going to work on is we're going to work on the upper right-hand corner.
Mhm.
So in that upper right-hand corner, I want to know, what is it that you do that makes your clients rave about you, return over and over again, and refer their friends? What do you do for those clients that makes them so happy with you that they rave, renew, and recruit? And in that corner, I want you to think about, do you have a perfect client? Like in your practice, could you name that person? And if so, what's their name? What traits do they have that make you really want to help them?
Um, yeah. Well, it seems like the people that rave about me are the ones that are using me for, um, they're really, enjoy the fact that I can do the chiropractic, the acupuncture. Um, but it's so hard because I'm coming from a different practice too, where I think that they really enjoyed the fact that I did all of that and that I could be there for them. And that's the hard thing that I have with trying to separate those two.
Sure.
Um, you know, probably my best client had me out 3 days a week, to do whatever I needed to do on the horses. She she spent so much money. Um,
Write her name down.
yeah. And but I do think she valued, that I was there for her, you know, in emergency situations, but that, you know, she loved the fact that we could do the chiropractic, the acupuncture, you know, laser, FES, whatever the horses needed. So I think
Okay.
she enjoyed having, that relationship. And then, like you said, um, making her feel confident that those horses were feeling their best.
All right.
We could catch things early before they became an issue.
Mm-hmm. All right. So how could you get more clients like her? What were the things that you were doing with her and for her that
Well, I first met
created
her on
that
emergency.
client? Okay.
But our relationship evolved, through circumstances, lameness, and then how we could keep those horses comfortable during their rehab, support their rehab, ensure better success at the end of the rehab by keeping them, biomechanically, by keeping them comfortable, keeping their muscles healthy,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to keep them pain-free.
All right. So that's what you want to put in that upper right-hand corner. The things that you do. Think about the things that you do, not about the horse. What did you do that did those things?
Mm-hmm.
Write those down. Did you call her to check up on the horses?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And when you called her, you were happy to do that because she was a good client.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. You stopped in even when she didn't have an appointment, anything like that.
I think I gave her my time when I was there.
Okay.
Uh,
So that's what
and
made her.
made her a priority too.
Okay. You made her a priority. That goes in that box. So now in that bottom quadrant, we're going to get to that in a second. Let me see where we're headed. Okay. Down in this bottom quadrant, I want you to think about what makes your perfect client? Is it someone who pays in advance? Is it someone who doesn't take up more of your time than you need to? Is it someone who, has their horses caught when you get there? Is it someone, those kinds of things?
Mm-hmm.
What is that perfect client? I want you to create that person in that bottom right quadrant.
The perfect client is one who wants the best for their horse and is willing to do what's necessary to make their horse.
Yeah, but I want some real specifics. You're giving me generalities. We want real specifics in that bottom quadrant because you want to be able to identify them walking in the door.
Perfect client.
I want the best for my client. Do whatever it takes because I'm
Mhm.
not going to pay you.
Mhm.
I've heard that more than once.
Mhm.
They didn't say the last part, but that part is sort of a assumed
For
part.
somebody that's financially sound.
Okay, write that in there.
How about not crazy?
Do you want clients who pay you in advance?
Well, that would be nice, or just one that pays as soon as the invoice gets to them. Like people that are, I think, respectful, of my time. And if I send them an invoice, respect the fact that, to pay it when they receive it.
Okay. We don't send invoices.
You just pay in advance.
All of our clients pay in advance.
Mhm.
And that keeps us from having that conversation at the end of the call. How much do I owe you? Wait a minute, I have one more call, one more question.
Right.
Okay. Or they have a credit card on file.
Yeah.
So to build that ideal client, you want it convenient for you. Because remember, you only have 34 years to accomplish this.
Mhm.
And every hour that you spend with a client is an hour less of that 34 years.
Mhm. So the perfect client is financially sound. They're professional. They trust me to help them make the right decisions for their horse. The perfect client has always kind of given me what's the word? The like basically they just trust that when we're moving forward in an exam, instead of just asking me, okay, well, how much is this? How much is that? How much is that? They just let me go with it, you know, and those
Okay,
have always been the best clients for me. I don't know what that word is. They give me the latitude.
sure. And you know who they will be when you create them? The ones that you are the most clear with
Mhm.
about what you do.
Mhm.
Remember that menu we talked about? You know, when you go into the fine restaurant that has no prices on the menu,
Right,
you don't ask, how much is this?
right.
Because you're pretty clear that it's going to be probably more than you have in your wallet, right? And you better
Mhm.
have the credit card out.
Mhm.
And so understanding from the get-go, from the beginning, that that's who you are as a veterinarian helps them to understand where they are. And that helps them to make a choice. Sometimes it's a choice that you are not their vet anymore, and that's okay because you don't want those people in your clientele anyway.
Right.
Does that make sense? But
Mhm.
because you value your time, you value your reward, you value your knowledge and all this work you've done, you know, these 50 years that you have worked weren't for nothing. You should
Right.
get a reward. You should have a reward put away because of that. And that's where we want this practice to go, is so that it rewards you after you're ready to say, I'm going on vacation for the next 10 years.
Mhm.
Okay. How does that feel?
That would be nice.
And it's possible. It's completely possible when you are ready to create this practice in that quadrant to be able to say, this is what I want.
Mhm.
This is what I am worthy of. This is what I deserve. Make sense?
Mhm.
All right. Where do you feel that? Say it out
Relief.
loud. Say it out loud. I'm worthy of this.
I'm worthy of this.
Good.
Relief.
Nice. This is Dr. Gail Daly. She's a chiropractor. She's been an animal chiropractor for a number of years. She joined us at base camp last year, and she took the opportunity to share her takeaways from base camp. Oops, go back. Are you going to click? I don't know if I can click my button. Can you get that for me, please, Dr. O? Share the sound. Sorry. Up at view options. She'll be back. We can't see your slide. No, you got to go to,
He's with me. I'm still in my meeting.
Takeaway is, and I'm surprised, I just turned 65 a couple months ago, and I was thinking of dialing it down. But with all the professionalism and all the great speakers and everything that they have ownership of, and so it's not only professional, but it's very heartfelt. I'm thinking of turning the heat back up.
all right. So that was a pretty quick little snippet from her. She's 65 years old. She's been doing animal chiropractic for, I think she told us 20 years, 30 years, quite a while. Okay. So she started in 2003, so 20 years. And she's kind of at that, I think it's time to create an exit plan. And one of the things that she learned through base camp, through 3-day weekend at base camp, was how to make her practice more efficient, more effective, and make more money in smaller amounts of time so that she could enjoy her time out of practice, so that she could retire, so that she could go on and do some bigger and better things. I can hear you. And
Okay,
see.
so my big takeaway is, and I'm surprised,
We're going to go to the next one. And so base camp, actually, that was last year's poster, but base camp 2024 is already up on our website, and it is a 3-day event. We bring in expert speakers, some pretty amazing inspirational speakers, like, I'm trying to think of who you would know. We also bring in a lot of chiropractors, but we also bring in people like estate planners and accountants who are expert at teaching their clients how to accumulate wealth with the income that you currently have. Estate planners in particular, especially for a clinic, are there to help you understand how you would be able to grow this clinic and then pass it off to the next generation so that it can continue to reward you in your retirement or in your exit strategy, that 10-year vacation. And so we like to make sure that base camp is padded with some really good speakers. I think we have another person who was at base camp.
Well, I mean, honestly, I really feel like, I mean, I've got a CA, but I didn't really know how to expand her responsibilities, to really have her help me with the animals. And then I kind of felt lost with, um, having a virtual assistant. I'd heard people talk about it, but never really had anybody dive a little deeper. So having someone on this time to really kind of talk about that and to really expand, the depth of what can be done with that, I was like blown away by that, to see all of the things that they could possibly do. I thought, oh my gosh, I feel really inspired about that.
I need some emojis here.
And to really see that they could take so much more off my plate, because I mean, I come home and I sit and I do so much more at home at night that sometimes it's 10 and 11 o'clock before I'm even finished. So there's absolutely no me time. There's no family time. There's no time for my animals. There's none of that. So, I mean, I really feel like if I can just go off in that direction, I'm going to have more time for all of those other things. So I'm really looking forward to all of this.
Yay. Yay, yay. That's a huge revelation. And there's only small next steps, right? You know the next little step.
Yep.
Thank you for sharing that. That's great. So that was Dr. Tekla Fuller. She's also a chiropractor, but she has a practice that is 50% animal chiropractic. And what she is working toward is, as you could hear, she spends a lot of time after work just catching up on work. And one of the things she learned in base camp last year, because we brought in some expert virtual assistants, we work with a virtual assistant company called We Are Working, and they have virtual assistants all across the globe. But the important thing about their company is that they are looking for talent. And so, as you're building a practice, there are many things that I heard you say that you are doing yourself, taking phone calls, taking text messages, sending out invoices, processing in the payments. And amazingly, these are some things that you can hand off to someone else that you know and trust and that works closely with you. And they don't have to even be with you. So that was one really big eye opener for Dr. Fuller, was to see that she could actually hire a virtual assistant to do some of these other time constraint things that she had on her plate. So we know that there are usually some concerns about growing a practice. And one of those concerns is almost always about money. I'm not making enough money to hire an assistant. I'm not making enough money to hire a virtual assistant. And the important thing to realize is that ordinary doctors, just like you, have hired associates, have hired assistants who are not in their way, who are not cluttering up the office, who they don't have to work with on an employer-employee basis, but help them to get more work done, to help them enjoy their work. Because I think one of the things I heard you say, Dr. Lisa, was that with this new practice, you really want to enjoy it more than you did the one previously. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't want to work that kind of hours anymore. That was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
You know,
You
building it
definitely,
up. I mean, you know, I'm starting from scratch here. I mean, it took me a while to build that up, you know, and in the end, you know, I could take off time and not worry about the practice. But even with employees, I mean, then you have, you know, the headaches of workman's comp and, you know, blah, blah, blah,
Sure.
blah. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Like things that are not even under your control, like car accidents and dog bites and, you know, like, and
Absolutely.
then the stress of practicing in California and COVID, that was fun too. So,
I bet. Oh, I can't imagine.
yeah, I mean, for me, like, I'm not, like my husband says, I don't like conflict. Like, even though I did it, it wasn't my favorite thing to do, you know, to have to be the boss and deal with conflict. And, but like for me, I would just like a small practice, you know, fortunately, you know, I'm in a position where I don't have to, you know, make the money that I did before, but I'm having a really hard time trying to define what that is, right? Because I can do these things.
Sure.
Does that mean I should do them? But you know, like in 2020, I got a frozen shoulder, you know, and I remember thinking, oh my God, how am I gonna work? Like I couldn't move my arm for like 3 months. And I think the hardest part for me is like just transitioning just to not just but to chiropractic acupuncture is, you know, having this other knowledge and not using it, but then also like I would love to be able to do a chiropractic exam in 10 minutes, but I've never really done one in 10 minutes. Like I don't know how I would even make a living just doing chiropractic. So
Sure. Would you like help with that?
yeah, I would love to know how I could do it more efficient or feel confident that a 10-minute, you know, adjust, you know, exam is going to get it done. I just,
Awesome.
I mean, I guess, I mean, I could motion a horse in 10 minutes, but I don't know. I feel like it would take me it takes me longer to get it done. And I don't know, like by the time I work through the horse and then I do, the limbs and everything, I'm well into 10 minutes.
Would you like to get some CE while you get help figuring that out?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think I would. I mean, I remember I did your Facebook class and I remember Dr. Orm, how do you say his last
Oh,
name? Dr.
just
O?
call him Dr. O.
Dr. O, he said, because one of my issues was I never felt confident in determining the restriction, like in the pelvic region, whether you had a PI or A.S., and he had a really good explanation as to what you were likely seeing because of just the way that horses carry themselves. And it made a lot of sense to me, and some of that stuff, like, I think helping to clarify, the things that take me a long time to do, maybe it's because I have less confidence in my diagnosis of it. For example, like the pole region,
Sure.
or, and trying to get them a good adjustment or feeling comfortable with leaving the horse with the adjustment that I have. A lot of times, if I feel like I'm not making that, if I don't feel like I can relieve that restriction, that's where I'm putting needles in. And that's where the needles take up a lot of time because they have to sit. And
Sure.
so, like, I have a group of barrel racers that have set up a day on Friday and they want to know how many horses I can do. And like, ideally, like in my ideal world, I probably wouldn't do more than 6 because that's a lot for me.
Okay.
And then, but they're going to be there, they can hold their horses, and so that I can move on from horse to horse. But yeah, I mean, I would like to know how you could do multiple horses and not just feel like total crap after you've done a day of horses every 10 minutes. Like, I just don't know, especially if you're adjusting limbs.
Would it be okay with you if I offered you a weekend course that we teach that would help you achieve that?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I will send you an email
Okay.
that explains it. It's in June,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we can help you with that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, because I
help you
mean, I
with,
just don't see how I can make that much money doing this.
sure.
I
But
mean,
I think, so this is Dr. Neil Sivula, and he has been doing animal chiropractic since dirt because he was in Dr. O's class. I'm just kidding. They're not that old.
Mhm.
And he runs a small animal practice in Ohio. And one of the things he discovered was that he loves doing chiropractic and acupuncture and all these little things, but he also loves old animals. So what he really enjoys is having a boutique clinic. He's only got 4 parking spaces, so he can't be a high volume clinic because he doesn't have the parking spaces for them. And what he recognized was that he could charge more because that's the kind of practice he wants. And those are the kind of clients he wants. He wants clients who have an income that they want to spend on their animals and that they love having that slightly longer appointment that takes, some time, and that they get to have all of the things.
Mhm.
Because he although he does chiropractic first, he too is probably not as efficient as some people who can get through a dog in 3 to 5 minutes.
Mhm.
So he came to me for some coaching, and he did that by way of base camp. because he realized that on a one-to-one basis, I'd be able to help him figure it out. You know, when he first came, he wasn't sure how they were going to make more money in their limited space and limited number of parking spaces. So money can be a problem sometimes because you cannot invent more time.
Mhm.
And time can be a problem because we oftentimes give our clients more time than you can't charge for time. You really
Mhm.
can't. And even though your clients might enjoy that you spend an hour with their horse, you know, how many other horses could you possibly see if you didn't spend a whole hour with each horse?
Mhm.
Because those other horses are still waiting and still suffering and waiting for your care. So we want to make sure that you are efficiently getting through that. So Dr. Diab was one of our students here, and she has a practice in Colorado Springs. She's got a mixed animal practice, and she used to do nutrition and acupuncture and a couple other modalities. And she realized that as she went through class, that chiropractic really became the modality. And when she offered that instead of here's this big menu, pick what you want to her clients, it became easier for the clients to know that they wanted her to help work on their animals. And it also became more clear to them what she was going to do.
Mhm.
And when that happened, then if she needed to add nutrition or if she needed to add, like she's got an online nutrition course that's hands off and she doesn't have to do anything with it. But if they needed nutrition or if they needed acupuncture, she could add that to the appointment. But they knew that chiropractic was the main focus.
Mhm.
She's got 3 children. She currently works 12 hours a week, and she's making more money now than she was before she even came to the chiropractic class. So that she's a great example of how you can become more efficient in your practice by being more specific about what you do and how that mission statement can help you to begin to gather the right kind of clients.
Mhm.
So the next one is your family. So sometimes families have some concern, or we feel like we need to be a little bit concerned about time. You know, you've spent time working on the practice. You're going to go off and get some continuing education, or you're going to spend a weekend looking at your computer for this weekend, and we're
Mhm.
going to lose out. And I think the important thing with family is to remind them that when you spend time working on your practice, creating that mission statement, creating the goals, that it's going to actually help you to have more time with them in the long run. So it's a small sacrifice for a small amount of time so that you can have bigger time with them. So when you attend base camp, there's a few things you'll get that come with it, and that is one of them is clarity. We'll be able to clarify some of those mission statements and goals and long-term goals that you're working on. You'll gain some confidence in yourself and your ability to be able to say to clients, this is what I do, and that's what I don't do. You'll work more on that, what your non-negotiables are, and you'll work more on what that ideal client looks like. And we'll start to fill in that gap. So that gap in the middle that you saw on the page, we'll start to talk about who fills in that gap for me so that I can minister to my really good clients without taking more time out of my day. And we talk about financial stability, how you use that income to reward yourself, but also to set your practice up so that it continues to reward you even when you're not there. So base camp is 3 power pack days. with some amazing speakers. Each day has a workshop baked within it, and you begin to build a community of like-minded doctors like yourself, so that you can see that we start to work toward those 3 principles that Viktor Frankl talked to us about. We are solving a problem in your practice. We are finding, we're suffering a little bit so that we can achieve a bigger goal. And we're building a community of other people who support you and love you and want you to succeed, so that you cannot feel so much like I'm stepping on the toes of these other people around me, but you are actually helping them. So many of those other resources around you that are maybe seeing that horse, you're not stepping on their toes as much as you are helping them understand that there might be a clear path to helping some of those animals get better faster. This is Dr. Jessica Riccio, and she's a chiropractor in Wyoming. And her practice was pretty much nothing. She actually had taken a job at the VA hospital for just as a job. I think she was a receptionist there. And she realized that when she got the right messaging out to her clients, that she could actually build a practice even where she was, and she felt like there wasn't a very big clientele group there. So she was building kind of like you from zero, or more from zero than you are. And she was eventually able to quit her job at the VA hospital and do animal chiropractic full time. And so when the message is right, it makes it easier for you to find those right clients. So clarity in what you are wanting in your practice, clarity in how you want clients to understand it. That part's really important. One of the other things we do talk about in base camp is, what are you going to do with your practice when you're done? Who are those clients going to depend on when you are done? What did we say, in 34 years? Who will take over? Who can you trust to serve your clients? We'll talk about the perfect veterinary referral, and that is a way for you to communicate with other veterinarians that surround you. And it's not about asking them for their patients. It's about letting them know that you're there to serve them and to help them so that they have better outcomes in their patients. Because it's pretty clear that I don't think you want regular medicine in your life. And they're really good at it, and they do it every day. But they still have those cases that don't respond quite the way they anticipated. And you've experienced that in your past practice life, right? You try something, it doesn't work, they're just not responding. And so we use a little short 10-minute presentation to help those veterinarians who don't have time to listen to a long-winded spiel. We're not telling them you're not educated enough. What we're telling them is, we'd like you to go home and have dinner with your family. And here's how I can help you do that. So base camp comes with a lot of bonuses and perks, and helps you to focus your intent, and helps you to focus where you're heading with your practice. And we don't always get the things that we want, but we do get the things we're committed to. So when you make a commitment to yourself by committing to saying, I would like to attend base camp in September so that I can solidify my clarity, I can be more confident, then it becomes easier to make that practice work, and it becomes easier and shorter. So I always say that education is expensive, no matter whether you pay for it like you did vet school, or whether you get it through years and years of trial and error like we do in practice. And we both probably know people who have tried to have practices and failed, and it's easier to fail when you don't have that support system, when you don't have a community around you. Base camp is one way to help build up that community, not just of the other people who attend, but literally of those speakers who are, I mean, they're amazing speakers because they know the strategic formulas that you need to keep yourself going. Even if you want a small practice, even if you want that niche boutique, I only see old dogs practice like Dr. Sivula, it still gives him the what's the word I want? The reminders each day of where he's going, where he wants to be, and how he's going to get there. So it also reminds you that income is a good thing, you know, and taking care of yourself first is a really good thing, because when you take care of yourself first, you're more able to feed more families.
Mhm.
When you hire employees, even if they're VAs in some distant land, it helps you to actually help more people. And it helps your employees and your clients understand that when you're doing well, they're doing well also. So we use a banking system called Profit First. In most accounting, income minus expenses equals profit. And that's how most people run their books. But in Profit First, income minus profit equals your expenses. And what's interesting about this kind of banking or accounting is that it also helps you to consider that it's not always about the money. Sometimes it's about time, and sometimes it's about how you spend that time, or how you spend that time with your clients, how you spend it with your patients, so that we can be more honest with ourselves and with our clients and with our patients. So you know how when you get on a plane and they always say, if these oxygen masks drop from the ceiling, put yours on first before you hand one to the person next to you. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but then the next thing they do is they walk down the aisle, and every time they get to a seat where there's, say, a mom and a child, they stop and they repeat it to the mom. If the oxygen masks drop out of the ceiling, put yours on first before you put it on the kid. Why do you suppose they repeat it again specifically to that person?
So that they ensure that they can help the child. I don't know.
Yeah. And the other part of it is this. Remember way at the beginning, we started talking about how Forbes did that study where people would rather spend their money on people that they love than on themselves.
Mhm.
You've got clients who would rather spend money on getting their horse adjusted than go to the chiropractor themselves.
Mhm.
It's the same principle. And it happens with us too in practice. We need to learn to take care of ourselves first so that we can help our clients and be on our A game every day. And that's one reason that that big YX is so important, and that we be really crystal clear with what we really want, what we don't want, what we're never going to do, and how we can make those clients rave, review, and recruit. Because the more clear we are, the more words we use in that are clarifying, that are visual and specific, the more we can make that practice come true. Sometimes we have leftover things that we just aren't ready to get rid of. You know, grandma's house is sitting on the back 40, and gosh, we spent so many days there when we were kids, and it was beautiful, and we had great memories. We just can't tear it down. But what benefit is it doing anyone sitting there?
Mhm.
Right now, it's a It's not only an eyesore, but it's a danger. Animals could get hurt there, people could get hurt there, and we're responsible for it. We have a responsibility of it sitting on our shoulders. So sometimes, and I understand this because I'm a veterinarian too. As a veterinarian, we feel like, but I have all this veterinary knowledge. I have to use it because it's my burden, or it was given to me, or it's my calling, or whatever we think it is.
Right.
And sometimes, if you've read Maria Kondo's book, I never remember the name of that book. The something lightness of giving things up, where you go through your house and you look at stuff and you go, does it give me joy? Yes. Does it give me joy? No. And you throw it out.
Mm-hmm.
There's some real mindset information in there. And what it talks about is the fact that we carry around these burdens of stuff all the time. And when we, and here's another, this is interesting. So there is a thing we can do with our bodies any day of the week that actually makes us jump higher, run faster, lose weight, be healthier. And it doesn't involve exercise. All we have to do is forgive. And a lot of times that forgiveness isn't other people that we're forgiving. Many times we're forgiving ourselves. And when we take some time and think about it, what actually happens when they're doing brain scans, when they're doing, when they're looking at brain waves, when people are in that state of forgiveness, they actually get into this really high theta, like perfect brain state, where your brain actually begins to heal itself and take care of things, and your memory gets better, and your ability to do things gets better. And sometimes giving up those grandma's house, tearing it down, would take such a burden off, and we can forgive ourselves for doing it, because she wouldn't have ever wanted it to be an eyesore or a danger to animals or other people or anything like that. And so there's an emotional component to that, but the bridge over that emotional component is the forgiveness part. I forgive myself for these things, or I recognize that the life-changing thank you magic of tidying up is the name of that book. I forgive myself. I know that if I hadn't gone to veterinary school, I wouldn't be where I am right now. So I'm grateful for that. So I think gratitude and forgiveness share the same coin. When I'm grateful for the things I did so I can get to where I am today, it doesn't mean that I have to use them now.
Mhm.
I mean, let's think about that. I was anorexic in high school. I'm grateful that I went through that, because I realized that it was something that helped me move into, it was a challenge to realize that I'm valuable, and that I'm valuable just by being here, and trying to be something I'm not doesn't serve me or anyone else. But does that mean I'm going to go back and be anorexic again so that I can continue to serve that past? No. So I might have to give some things up so that I can move into my future, the future self that I want to be. Oop, going the wrong way. So you can start by making a commitment to yourself. And it's a pretty easy step. All right, write on a piece of paper, show it to me that you are committed to this new journey, to building this practice that you want and you love. And that, just write on that, I'm committed. That's great. Yay. That's a big step
Mhm.
because for some people, that's a scary step to make a commitment to something like taking care of yourself. I'm committed to my ability to serve. I'm committed to choosing a project to work on. I'm committed to growing, and that can be hard and painful. And I'm committed to joining a community who loves me. So the next little step you can do to help you continue with that commitment, if you go back out onto the dashboard when you came in, where you clicked on the main stage, you'll see that there's a button for you to make your commitment to base camp. So a ticket to base camp is $197. And that's the only decision you need to make today. You have until September 1st to decide if you want all the CE and all the other bonus materials that come with it. But that $197 gets you those 3 big days of speakers and connection, and get you into the meetings and get you to be able to connect with other people in the meetings. It's pretty easy.
Mhm.
So take some time, go out on the dashboard, check it out. And that's the end of our day.
Oh, thank you very much. This is really helpful. I might lose you. I'm trying to get on my iPad, but it sounds like we're almost done. But I have 2% left on my phone.
Oh, goodness, yes.
Yeah, but I wanted to let you know it was really, really helpful. I will definitely be trying. It's in September.
It's in September.
I
It's
most likely will be attending unless something comes up that makes it prohibitive.
sure.
And I would also like to join you in June, if not sooner, to kind of just reinforce my chiropractic skills. The last chiro in-person session, well, continuing ed I did was down in San Diego with the IVCA. I think it was 2 years ago now. And while it was good information, I would like more of that hands-on wet lab type. And I
Absolutely.
did
And our
do
whole
some
weekend is
continuing-
that.
Perfect. And I did some continuing ed at, in Florida, at the IVAS course, whatever it was, for the advanced acupuncture. And it was great, but I just feel like I need more clarification on some of these techniques,
Sure.
to feel more confident in my approach. So,
Yay.
but because do I go to a totally different career or do I continue on this career? And I think that at least chiropractic and continue with acupuncture allow me to at least use all of the training and continuing education I have in the past to make me better at this next phase. So,
Fabulous.
yeah. So if you have anything before June, I'd be interested. Otherwise, I'll see you in June.
June is our soonest equine, and I will send you that information unless you wanted to come to an audit. So you can also attend, it's a Lab 2 audit.
Mhm.
So you would be here with our Animal Chiropractic 101 students on a
Mhm.
Lab 2, and their next Lab 2 is I have to think about this. We have a Lab 3 this month. So our next Lab 2 is in March. I'll send you information on both of those,
Okay.
and that'll give you some ability to be clear about what you want to decide on.
Yeah, I'm
Thank you
pretty
so
low.
much for joining us
I'm
today.
local, so I'm in Blanco, so I think I'm pretty close to you. So
Yeah.
that might actually work.
I'm so glad you joined us today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was really helpful. I'm actually going to try and find that book by Victor.
Viktor Frankl.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
I'll send you a link to that too.
Okay,
Make it easy.
great.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. I
Thank you,
really
Dr.
appreciate it.
Lisa.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll see you
Okay,
soon.
okay, bye.